at my Boys to Men concert last night? That answer is not surprising because most people were there till 3 a.m. and they're still asleep. Okay, we actually, last night was the most electrifying thing I think I've ever been at. Just the way the Obamas were able to capture this, in Michelle's words, magical moment that we're in right now. The way they were able to remind us with sort of deep thoughts a little bit here about what Kamala's going to be facing and how we have to stand up for it. And just their leadership and grace and dignity, and the contrast with, say, on the Republican convention, Hulk Hogan. Okay, that was the thing. So I bring you Arizona greetings from the state of Minnesota, where the women are strong, the men are good looking, and all the vice presidents are above average. The joke in Minnesota is that parents bounce their babies on their knees and say, one day you can grow up to be vice president. We have had Humphrey Mondale and now the great Tim Walz. I am so excited about the direction that this is going. I have a very strong memory ever etched in my mind of that huge rally that Kamala and Tim had in Arizona. The way it was electrifying. I always think of this kind of split screen, right? You got that rally in Arizona with all these people, and you've got like Donald Trump meandering around at a speech at his golf club talking about bird cemeteries. You've got Tim and Kamala out there on the stage looking happy, and then you got Trump and Vance looking like they already need couples counseling, basically. That is where we are right now, my friend. And this could not be more important as you look at the importance of Arizona for the United States Senate, and you must elect Reuben to the United States Senate. I love working with, I have campaigned there a lot with Mark, who I adore, for some good reason. That's because, as you know, a whole lot of Minnesotans moved to Arizona. I don't know why would they do that, but they do that, so I've done that with Mark. I had a very funny plane ride with Mark once in his little plane. We flew from Phoenix to Sedona for the McCain conference. I got in that plane, crawled up on the wing, and he said, I just want you to know I've never flown a civilian in this little plane. And I go, well, what do you mean? You haven't? No. And I go, you're an astronaut. And he's like, no, I haven't. The plane starts to take off. He looks at me, got these headphones on. He goes, okay, well, I guess I flew my brother. And I go, your brother is an astronaut. So we're taking off, and he says, I don't know if now we're in the air. And he goes, I don't know if you've heard about the landing strip in Sedona. And I go, no, I don't know anything about that. He goes, it's the most dangerous landing strip in the country. They call it the USS Sedona. I'm trying to act cool, and I'm like, again, well, you're an astronaut, you know? And I go, I bet you've landed there many, many times. And he goes, no, I've never landed there before. Anyway, it was a perfect landing, as everything that Mark does, right? Including winning elections. So I love him. I love your governor. Hey, how are you, Reuben? I was just saying nice things about you. And do you know that your opponent endorsed my opponent and he endorsed her? There was like a little love fest going on between. Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this guy has, I think people, of course, we're always worried about Arizona, but consistently Reuben has shown that being yourself, showing what you believe in matters, and that is why he is way ahead of this Terry Lake. And we do not want here in the U.S. Senate. So, just a few more things on the national front, what we're going to see the next 2 days. So I think it's extraordinary what Kamala has done here. She has united our party in just 30 days. She has launched a presidential campaign. She has raised nearly $500 million. She has electrified crowds. And there's nothing Donald Trump, as Obama noted last night, there's nothing he hates more than bigger crowds from the other side. He hates it. He's literally making up that they're AI generated. Okay, he's literally said this. And we are seeing this increase in surging in the polls in swing states, including yours. what we need in terms of energy. And what I can't wait to see is that debate on September 10th. On one side, you're going to have a woman who believes in the rule of law, someone who's put murderers in jail. On the other side, you're going to have a guy who is facing over 100 felony indictments, been convicted 34 times.
Yep.
So when you hear that word Project 2025, remember, just make sure you don't confuse it. That is not his number of felony indictments, okay? That is the 2025 reasons that you're not going to vote for him. You have on one side a woman who took apart those Supreme Court nominees. I know, I was in the room. Y'all remember my little interchange with Brett Kavanaugh? Oh yeah, where he had to apologize. Well, he should be apologizing to the nation now because of what has happened. But Kamala had their number. She called it out for what it was. She asked about Roe v. Wade. What's on the other side? You got a guy who did a video this year where he said he was, and this is his own words, proudly the person responsible for overturning Roe v. Wade. These guys don't want to just take us back to the 1950s. They want to take us back to the 1850s, and I'm so glad you're going to have that ballot measure on the ballot in the state of Arizona. That is a huge different deal. So when you talk about that, remember our message is real simple. My friend Al Franken used to say that Democratic messages, Ruben, would be on one bumper sticker, and then the next one would say, next bumper sticker, to be continued. To be continued. There'd be like 5 of these bumper stickers. Our message when it comes to women's health care is really simple, and that is that women should have the right to make their own decisions about their health care, not politicians. Bumper sticker it would be, and we don't want Carrie Lake in the waiting room. All right? All right, you thought everyone was nice from Minnesota.
Nah.
Okay, so that is what we're going to see when we see these different debates. And I know they're going to come to Arizona a lot, Trump and Vance. When they come there, I just want you to keep saying, I'm in music right now after the Boys to Men, you keep saying, it's just one more stop on their farewell tour, okay? Because in the end, we are going to win this race. Now, I want to end with just a few words about my friend Tim Walz. I go way back with this guy. You know, he grew up in Nebraska. I didn't know him then. Signed up for the military when he, like so many rural kids in Arizona do, signed up when he was 19 years old. Served our country for 24 years, highest enlisted when he gets into Congress, becomes the chair of the Veterans Committee. This stuff matters a lot in Arizona, and you also get that we love our National Guards, right? That's what he did. That was his kind of service. When he comes to Minnesota, it's as a teacher with his wife, Gwen. They settle in the town where my husband grew up. So this is where we come into the story. My in-laws had 6 boys. They had 4 boys, and they wanted a girl, got pregnant, and she had identical twin boys. They lived in a single trailer court for most of my husband's time growing up, and they built triple bunk beds, right? So with the 3 boys on one side, 3 on the other. Well, when she had these kids in such quick succession, people from church brought her casseroles. They brought her hot dishes, and she decided that she was going to pay back when those kids grew up. She has been doing this for years for hundreds and hundreds of families. So when Tim Walz and Gwen had their little baby Gus, and he was in the middle of this crazy congressional race in a red district that no one thought he could win, that had only been won by one other Democrat in 100 years, my mother-in-law knocks on the door with a chicken parm dinner and a bunch of balloons. That is a true story, because that's what we do in America, and that's what we do in a lot of small towns in our country. We give back. We take care of people. So Tim has given back the entire time. He gave back with his service to our veterans. He gave back when he decided to run for Congress and was in the top 10 bipartisan members of Congress, won the sharpshooting contest. I don't know, you can share that with people in your state. You think it helps? And then goes on to decide to run for governor. And he brings our state together, crosses the river of our divides. And here again, what do you do with power? Ruben's good at this, because you can just sit there and not do much. You don't have to say much. You can just kind of keep your seat, go to some ribbon cuttings, whatever. What do you do with power? Well, what Tim did with power is extraordinary. I mean, you can still go to the ribbon cuttings, and they're not bad, you know, but what do you do with power? What Tim did with power was extraordinary. He actually decided, okay, that school lunches and dinners and breakfasts that we had during COVID, our state loved that. Rural people were coming up to him all the time, we need this. He made that permanent, no questions asked. Every kid gets lunch and dinner. He gave out the biggest middle-class tax cut in the history of our state. He went and made sure that we have the most progressive work-family leave policy in America. And he gets it. If you look at Minnesota with one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country and 6th in the country for doing business, he gets that when unions are strong, our economy is strong. And when our economy is strong, America is strong. I am pretty psyched to give the nominating speech tonight. For our next vice president, a lot of speeches are getting cut. I think I'm going to be okay. I'll maintain my place. So this is a convention like any other, and this is going to be an election like any other. Very last thing I'll say that Joe Biden so beautifully expressed on Monday night when he talked about the fact, I love the job, but I love my country more. Democracy hangs. Democracy is there. I think about those people in camo during Mark's election in Arizona that actually captivated the nation because they realized in 2022, they realized that this wasn't the end. It didn't end with that insurrection back in 2020. In 2020, I was the one that made that walk at 3:30 in the morning with my Republican counterpart, Roy Blunt at the time, and Mike Pence. It was the three of us walking over broken glass by spray-painted pillars with 3 pairs of young women with the mahogany boxes. Arizona was critical in this. In the morning, it had been a walk of pomp and circumstance and celebration. And then in the House, remember what happened? You know who they objected to? Arizona. And then we went back to the Senate, and I led that fight as chair of the Rules Committee, then ranking of the Rules Committee, and took on Ted Cruz on the Senate floor. And just a few minutes later, they removed Vice President Pence from that chair. They told us the insurrectionists had breached the doors. We were taken to this undisclosed location, and someone had the foresight to remove those mahogany boxes, or they would have burned those ballots. They would have gotten rid of those ballots. So we made that walk at 3:30 in the morning, and democracy prevailed. We made that walk.
USA! USA!
You guys are good, man.
USA!
That was the walk 2 weeks later that brought us to that inaugural stage with that blue sky. Remember that? Garth Brooks singing Amazing Grace. You remember Lady Gaga in that beautiful dress, belting out the Star Spangled Banner, turning to the flag and saying, and our flag was still there. We wore the same outfit. I had to go home and change. It was a whole thing. No, that didn't happen. And then you remember most of all Amanda Gorman, the youngest poet in the history of America, the youngest inaugural poet. She wrote that poem in the 2 weeks between the insurrection and the inauguration. And she reminded us that day in those words that will be forever etched in our minds, those words, we must find light in the never-ending shade. That's what's happened in the last 32 days, Arizona Democrats. We have found that light in the never-ending shade. You found that light a long time ago with Ruben because you got a lot of light in your state, okay? You got a lot of sun, but it is our job now to keep on that march that I took that day over the broken glass and by those spray-painted pillars. It is our job to carry that light forward, and we only have like, I don't know, like 80 days, something like that. You can do anything in 80 days. For Ruben and for Kamala and for Tim and your great congressional candidates. You literally can. You don't have to cook. You can use a microwave. I don't know. You can just kids, there's people they can stay with, I don't know. You gotta just get out there. You gotta put out lawn signs. You've gotta get out there in the parades. You gotta make those calls, and mostly in your state. And if you think I don't understand swing states and independent voters, I got 3 words for you. Governor Jesse Ventura. Okay, that was my state. So you got to get out there and thank you, one person there for Ventura. You have got to get out there and you've got to talk to those independents and moderate Republicans who came along. So many of them voting for Katie, your great governor. So many of them voting for your wonderful Attorney General and Secretary of State in that last election. You got to turn them out for Rubin. You got to turn them out for Kamala. And we are going to win this election. Thank you, everybody.